Question before the Senate is on passage of Senate Resolution 220. This is actually only the second time I've addressed this body. Thank you, Senator Meekoff, for your indulgence. And yes, I did shave. Also wearing pants. I'm all set today. As most of you would understand, this is the hard sort of thing to even know where or how to begin. So I'll start with just saying that I want this address to be a tribute to, and I really tried not to get too emotional, by the way, because I thought that when I saw Hune turn into a blubbering crybaby over there, I was like, what a sissy. I don't want to be like that guy. But now that I'm up here, I can see it's a lot harder than I thought. But I want this to be a tribute to people that nurtured, helped, loved, befriended, and inspired me along the way. So I'll start at the very beginning. It's with my family, my mom, my dad, my siblings, my brothers and sister. Starting with the youngest, my baby sister, Katie. You are special. I probably relate to you the most. I know you're watching online right now. You're funny and kind, almost witty. I wish, I don't really know what happened back in college when you called me in the middle of the night, but just to make it clear that when you were in trouble and you needed somebody, it meant the world to me that you called me. My brother John, you have inspired so much of my work. Beating addiction is so hard; it's almost impossible. And you did it, and turned your life around, and I'm so thankful for that, proud of you. To Eric, you are a hero. It's a classic American story. Our nation was attacked, and you enlisted. And you went to war. You saw the type of horrors that I couldn't even imagine, especially in the second tour in Fallujah. I know that you struggle to find peace with the realities of what you have to do in war. And I want you to know that I love you and respect you, and all I want is for you to find the peace that eludes you. My brother Steve, we were born just 51 weeks apart. Ever since I can remember, you were a protector of mine. You may have beaten me up at home, but at school, you were my defender. And even when it meant coming to blows with a bully. And you're still my defender on Facebook now, so thank you for that. I had a lot of friends growing up, but none as close as you. My brother Leo, we never really did relate much, but I always admired the sense of adventure. And what I do remember, even though you moved out much earlier when I was just a little kid, we all just wanted to be a part of whatever trouble you were getting into. My mom, you are a model of unconditional love. So thank you for teaching me about redemption and forgiveness, about how to put family first. I cannot even imagine how hard it was and still is to be our mom, but I feel like we hit the jackpot with you. Dad, in case you didn't know, you are still my hero. Hard work comes naturally because you modeled it every day for me. Putting others ahead of yourself has been your hallmark. When I had my first job working in your office, my dad's a doctor, filing, I remember that when I worked my way up to the front desk, we got a call from the hospital, which was about a mile away, and it was that one of his patients had coded. I didn't know what that meant, but I had to get an urgent message to him. He got up, he jumped into his car, and he drove away. And I asked the nurse, Lynn, I said, what does that mean, the patient coded? It means his heart stopped. I said, well, what is he supposed to do about it? He's here. And he came back. He saved that man's life. And a week later, he was standing right there in front of me at the reception desk for a checkup. My dad had brought somebody back to life. I never looked at my dad the same after that. It's like a superhero or something, just amazing. love them all dearly. Teachers. Jennifer Holdred, my high school government teacher, thank you for challenging me to understand why I believe what I believe, to have it not just be tradition or passed down by my parents, but to really understand why and showing me what it looks like to advocate without being a total jerk. Rose Daniel is my music teacher from 7th grade on. Choir was the class that got me up in the morning. It's where my like of music turned into a passion, a love for music. It's been a constant in my life ever since then. It's what I always wanted to do. Actually, for a living, it's what I wanted to do. And thankfully, I had a solid Lieutenant Governor backup plan. It was in choir of my sophomore year that I was seated behind the prettiest girl in the school. So thank you, Miss Daniel, for the seating assignment. She was a soprano, I was a tenor. I had been crushing on her for about a year and a half before she gave me the time of day. And it wasn't until we were cast opposite lead roles in a spring musical that she had no choice but to get to know me. The play was called Little Shop of Horrors. I was Seymour, she was Audrey, and we both got eaten by a giant plant at the end. Luckily, the play included a kiss. But unluckily, the director decided to have me dip her away from the audience so as to not actually require two students to kiss. But in the final performance, in front of the whole audience, when I dipped her away, she did kiss me. I was in love. But she was going off to college, and I had another year of high school. She was a cougar. My guidance counselor was Robert Gauss. I wanted desperately to graduate and go off to college catching this girl, and I decided I was going to marry her. I was 17 years old still at the time. And Mr. Gauss made a deal with me. He said, if you can get accepted to Michigan State, I will arrange for you to graduate early if you can pass all the tests. I held up my end of the bargain. He held up his. And so thank you, Mr. Gauss, for getting me started early when I really desperately wanted to move on. As I'm sure you can tell by now, that cougar was Julie. I figured it would be irresponsible for us to get engaged when I was 17, so I waited till the first birthday after my 18th, or the first Saturday after my 18th birthday, which happened to be April Fool's Day. And that was a happy coincidence. I figured we had a better chance of a yes on a day like that. And she did say yes. A year later, we were married. She took a chance on me, and I was just a kid. And from then on, it seemed like life was full of people giving me chances. In fact, I've never been given a job that I was qualified for on paper. It was always somebody seeing potential and investing in that potential, giving me an opportunity. And I hope that I did every one of them proud. I sure did. I did try. My first big professional decision was, do I leave my job as a janitor in a nursing home to join the mailroom of a local bank? And the janitor position paid more, but it seemed like the bank might have a better future. So I talked to them, and they were desperate. They pulled an application of mine from a year earlier when I didn't even get an interview, because the person who got the job back then quit on the spot, and the boss was about to go on vacation to Vegas, and they needed somebody. And it didn't look like I was going to steal too much, so they hired me. And thus, my career in banking was born. I had great mentors in that bank, Doug Cook, Ron Story, Jim Fast. They invested heavily in me, taught me the business. I would not be where I am today without them doing that. I did just about every job in that bank. But the move out of the mailroom was the most memorable, because I marched in very scared to Jim Fast's office. I said, Mr. Fast, I need a full-time job. Julie and I are getting married. And he said, well, what job are you interested in? And I said, whichever one's full-time, that one. And he said, how about the teller line? And I said, I'll take it. I went from mailroom to VP in 10 years. Most of those years, I was Doug Cook's right-hand man of sorts, and I guess I've kind of been in that type of role for a long time. So it's leaving a successful career in banking to run for office was risky. Julie and I had a two-year-old at home, another one on the way, and I quit my job to campaign full-time. Looking back, cannot believe how irresponsible that was. First in the race, it was Julie and me against the world, and we were making it. But then I knocked on a fateful door, and this 18-year-old kid came to the door. The funny thing is, it wasn't even his house. He was visiting a friend. I don't really remember much about knocking on that door, but he contacted me a couple days later and wanted to volunteer. His name is Ben Geiger. He's right there. So Ben has, he has been with me since then, since that first campaign knocking on doors. Julie and Ben are the two constants this entire time in state service. Ben, in many ways, you grew up with me. In your 30s now, and I'm proud of who you've become. You're proud of my alumni club. You even built your own political brand, reaching chairman of the Berry County Board of Commissioners, and I would ride with you anywhere. I mean, figuratively, because you're actually a really bad driver. But you have a gift for service. I hope you continue on, and if you do run for higher office, I'll be right there with you. With help from friends and family, donating money, knocking on doors, going in parade after parade after parade, we did it, and it was a thrill to win that first race. But in many ways, service in the House with many of you that were over there at that same time, service in the House really broke my heart, and it wasn't because of the people, it was because of the situation that we were in. It seemed like so much of the job was trying to make bad less bad. It was still an amazing experience to embark upon. And so many people from the House to thank. I couldn't possibly get to everybody, but I'll just quickly run through some. Andy Speaker for giving me the committee assignments I wanted, even when my own leadership did not recommend it. I know what you were doing there, and it worked. So, Leader Craig DeRoche, we butted heads a lot in 2007 and 8. And frankly, I didn't like you much back then, but I am so proud of who you have become today. As to keep on telling that story of redemption, it's powerful. Then Senate Majority Leader Mike Bishop, thank you for putting me in rooms that a freshman legislator had no business being in. I don't know why you did that, but you are a class act. I would not be here without you investing me in the way that you did. Congressman Bill Huizinga, state representative at the time, you're the one I wanted to be like. Model of character and integrity. I looked up to you then. I still look up to you now. Congressman Justin Amash, thank you for being a friend and confident that I could always count on to have read the bills and to debate them and talk about them with me. You are one of the most faithful people I have ever met. I will support you to the end. My seatmate in the first term, Dave Agema. Thanks for going snow sheep hunting in the mountains of Siberia during those calls of the House in 2007. I had a lot more room to sleep under my desk. Ken Kurtz, my seatmate in the second term. I was your legislative mentor. You're twice my age, and you were my life experience mentor. You're a good man, a wise man. I'm way better to have known you. Clerk Gary Randall, thanks for showing me the ropes and being the keeper of history and tradition in an era of term limits. You are a Michigan treasure. Kevin Elsenheimer, you could have ended my effectiveness after beating me in that leadership election. Instead, you empowered me. You set the standard for how to bring a caucus together after winning, and you also set the stage for the Republican comeback in 2010. I used to think there's nothing worse than a sore loser. I've come to know now there's nothing worse than a sore winner. Kevin Elsenheimer, class act, the right person won that race. David Dixon, we put you in 2007 and 9, we put you in so many unfair situations, and yet you handled it with grace, amazing dignity and class. Central staff and caucus services, the ones that we had in the House back then, you guys were amazing. It's amazing, and I love seeing where you've all landed. I mean, that was a real dream team. All of LSB, but especially Fred Doherty, you were the man when it came to tax policy drafting. Jay Wortley in Treasury, you could manipulate imperfect data, otherwise known as revenue estimating, with the best of them. Loved spending time with Jay. Small Business Association of Michigan for making me your legislator of the year. The first time they gave that to a freshman, you helped put me on the map right at the very beginning. Steve Beda in the House, you shared power freely with me when you were the chairman in the majority. And I still, to this day, I don't really know why you did that, but I don't think I'd be here without the experience and the exposure that you gave me, so thank you. And I'm sorry if what I just said gets used against you in a future primary. Now, I love this work, but I hate the way that the early stages of elections demonize people that go out of their way to work with other people. It's not good for us. I know there are more, but I need to move on. I ran for Senate in 2010, never dreaming that I would end up part of a gubernatorial administration. It was John Yabb that first introduced me to Rick Snyder. I had never heard of the guy. But, John, you were persistent in making sure that we crossed paths, and you were right. I loved him. I didn't think he was going to win, but I did think he'd be a great governor if somehow he did. And so, John, you're one of the biggest difference makers in my life, having made that connection. Thank you for bringing me to this dance. In politics, it's hard to know who your real friends are, and you're a real friend. I will never forget what you did. I could tell a story about every single person in this room, but I want to say one thing that applies to practically every single one of you. You are not supposed to walk between me and the speaker, right? I don't know, I mean, you set the rules. I don't know why you vote for that rule if you're not going to follow it. You could just change it. Seriously, though, I have loved my time in the Senate. We transformed Michigan. We took it from the bottom to being a top 10 state in so many different ways. Over 550,000 new jobs. Behind every single one of them is a powerful story about somebody's life getting better. That is your record. You own that. This Michigan comeback was possible because you and the people in the House of Representatives had the guts to lead. A few of the highlights I'll try to hit here. Leadership dream team of Stamas, Walsh, and Bolger. Wow. I mean, those guys really knew how to run the House. I'm still amazed at what they were able to accomplish in such a short period of time. Judge Gilbert, who carried the original tax reform bill, sent a message to the rest of the nation that we were open for business. It set the stage for the comeback. Randy Richardville, you're as smooth as they come. Maybe a little too smooth. But it was the perfect demeanor for what Michigan needed and the work that had to be done at that time. Judy, I saw one time, Judy Emmons, you scoffed one time when I said you were a mentor of mine, but you really did teach me how to take care of my district. I learned that watching you, even before I was first elected. I admire you more than I could ever possibly express. Carol Viventi, thank you for helping me to avoid looking like a fool in those first couple years. Mike Knopf, you are my senator. You are a model of what I think a legislator ought to be. Jeff Hansen, you and I both know what it's like to receive a death sentence for a child. And somehow my daughter lived and your son didn't. I can't even imagine what that would be like. But you honor your family with the way that you make a difference for so many people, many of which you'll never even meet. And what's amazing is that in the last few years, it seems like you've taken this amazing record and just upped it, like you just upped everything. And for however short Colin's life was, I know he was lucky to have a father like you, and we're lucky to have a senator like you here in Michigan. Thank you for doing what you do. Mike Kowal, it has been an honor to run the procedures of this chamber with you, even on the days when it's just you and I. So I'll see you on the 28th. Arlen Meekoff, you and I came in as part of that tiny Republican class in 2006. I could tell right away that you were a leader. And I learned very quickly after that, too, that you were a real gentleman. Thank you for your integrity. POAMS, that's an acronym, P-O-A-M. It stands for Pissed Off Autism Moms. They were my secret weapon in the autism insurance reform effort of 2011 and 12. That was probably my favorite moment of being in this position. We won against opposition that was huge. Businesses, union, insurance, they were all opposed to it, and somehow it still got done because of this army of poems that came together. And of course, the full faith, strength, and force of the governor's office behind it as well. Jeff Cobb and Adam Reams, the entire Secretary of Staff, you guys are real pros. Thank you for what you do. Mike Ferlin and your team, thank you for your protection and professionalism. The press corps, I appreciate all of you, but especially, well, not all of you, but I appreciate most of you, but especially the newspaper Capitol Press Corps. The ones that dig in and day out, the ones that are here with us that really get into it. Kyle Malin, Jack Spencer, Zach Gorchow, Emily Lawler, David Eggert, Jonathan Osting, Kathy Gray, Paul Egan, Chad Livengood. You are essential. You are absolutely essential. And I salute you and the work that you do as a public service. I do have one question. Skubik just goes around saying that he's the senior Capitol correspondent, and did you guys ever vote on that, or did he just make that up? I always wondered. The special thanks to the Detroit News and Free Press for endorsing my campaign for governor. It wasn't my time, but I will always cherish your support. That was a very, very big deal to me. Thank you. Now to the administration. Rick Snyder built an amazing team. It has been the honor of my life to serve alongside of each of you. Again, way too many to name them all, but a few highlights that I'll hit. Dennis Muchmore. You know, actually, I didn't want Rick to hire you in the first place, but boy, was I wrong. You are like a magician, and the way that you could work things out. Mike Zimmer, you are the best problem solver in the business. Allison Scott, I think that President Trump ought to put you in charge of border security because you are the best gatekeeper that I have ever seen. Thank you for protecting Rick. And Rich Baird, you're the best talent scout Lansing has ever known. You are an enigma to this system right until the end. You took the toughest problems and made an enormous difference. Dick Posthumus, I'm still starstruck when Dick Posthumus walks in the room. I can't help it. It's like a dream come true that I got to work with him in this closely and in this way. And I'm sorry, but I do have to tell this story about 8 years ago when, because I set a new life goal 8 years ago when we announced Dick as the legislative director and senior advisor to the governor. The press said, what do you think about getting back into this? And he said, well, I'm surprised. I never thought I'd get back into politics again. You know, I thought I was like a stallion put out to pasture. And I set a new goal that day, and that is to, without any trepidation or hesitancy, to refer to myself as a stallion and be totally okay with that. Ari Adler, when I hear your sarcasm, I feel like we must be related. It's like Jerry Maguire, you know, you complete me. Jared Agan, who was our chief of staff and comms director before that, now working for Mike Pence. I knew that you were destined for greatness literally the very first time that I met you. Keep on climbing. Probably shouldn't take that one chief of staff job, but keep on climbing. Nat Forstner, you are like a brother, the most brilliant policy mind I've ever worked with. I think of you as the most important and impactful person in the last 8 years that the public has never heard of. I know that that's the way that you prefer it. What a difference that you made. Laura Beal, I didn't know how much I needed you until I saw what you could do. Thank you for being such a great communicator and helping me to bring my communications to the next level. Jean Luther Lowe, you weren't with me for very long, but those were some exciting years. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Kelly Coffey Tabby, you're a superstar, and this town's just figuring out that, just discovering it. You know, we were getting pretty thin in there at the end. She's 21 years old, and for a little while she was in charge of my office, which she's at 21 years old and in charge of my office, and yet it still somehow worked out. She's pretty awesome. Janelle Leonard from my state rep office to the first 5 years of this administration, could always trust you with anything. Thank you for taking care of business. Kelly Saunders, air traffic control for my life. I trusted you with literally everything, and I want to underscore this, literally everything. And Kelly could take me down really easy if she felt like it with everything she knows. My only regret is that it took me so long to realize what you could do. So let me take this moment to say that Kelly committed to staying with me to the very end, and so she's just starting the process of looking, and anybody would be really lucky to have her on their team. I want to give a shout out to my 2010 campaign alumni team that now includes current state representative James Lauer and also House Deputy Chief of Staff Phil Goodrich. Both were core members of my 2010 Senate campaign, and my gubernatorial campaign team, Matt Gibb, Nick Bougie, Michael Stroud, Bryce Webster, Trino, who's like Sherry, doesn't need a last name, Kelsey Snyder, Greg Andrews, Jessica Stroud, Lucy Julius, Don Goris, Anne-Marie Stafford, Mike Schrempfen, Derek Dickow. What a ride. My world got 10 times bigger. I will cherish those memories. So as far as work goes, that leaves one person who's up here with me, Rick Snyder. The person that I hoped would win, but wasn't sure would, back 8 years ago and 9 years ago. You are the greatest governor of my lifetime. You brought winning back to Michigan. You saved Detroit.
You had spreadsheets and you weren't afraid to use them. You balanced budgets, reformed taxes, improved the credit ratings of our state. You increased access to early childhood education, saved lives with your health care reforms. They say that President Trump can't get Mexico to pay for a wall, but I don't know, you got Canada to build us a bridge. You know, this, you took blame when things went wrong, and you passed on credit when things went right. You're a leader. You were the man in the arena. Our children and their children after them will benefit from the work that you did. So God bless you, Rick Snyder. You did this to make a difference, and you have. Now the leadership of this state will be transitioned to others. You have big shoes to fill. Mike Shirkey, Lee Chatfield. You know, it's harder to maintain your testimony in a time of divided government. You both have strong values and integrity, and I know that you're up for the challenge. I stand ready to help in any way. Please, don't hesitate. Gretchen Whitmer, you are now entrusted with the care of this state. What an awesome responsibility. Congratulations on making it. I wish you nothing but success. And that's not a throwaway line. Really, I wish you nothing but success. Please call on me anytime if there's any way that I can help you advance the interests of the people of this state. Now my family. Colin, my son Colin, I could not be any more proud of the man that you are becoming. Just yesterday, it seemed like you were a preemie baby in intensive care just down the street. You becoming a charming, witty, outgoing, smart high schooler. Having the privilege of raising you is a gift from God. Reagan, I wonder if you'll ever know how many lives you improved just by being you. You're the inspiration for a body of work that started with autism insurance reform, but quickly expanded to help so many people that tend to get left out of the good things in life. Thank you for teaching me how to see potential. I'm so thankful to be your dad. Kerrigan. You know, the whole state prayed for you when your heart stopped. It was literally the scariest moments of my life. But look at you now. You are a vibrant, funny child. You seem to have a bigger appreciation for life than anyone else I know. I love you with all my heart. Julie. Julie has a perfect voting record. Are you missing votes right now? Julie, I don't deserve you. I have asked way more of you than anyone could have ever reasonably asked. We met when we were kids and we grew up together. We went out on our own and we made it. But I can tell you now, I am not me without you. I admire you and respect you. I'm proud of you. I love you. Thank you for not leaving when it got hard. Because I can't even imagine life without you. As the intensity of my life declines, I can't help but suspect that the intensity of your life is about to go up as my shadow fades and people around here find out what you can do when you're not worried about how it impacts me. I'm just thankful that nobody ever found out that the lieutenant governor was sleeping with the state representative. So I'm about done, at least for now. I will miss it. But it feels like the right time to take a step away from elected office. In this business, friends come and go, but enemies tend to accumulate. I'm going to get some of my life back. When you're young, life gives you things all the time. First, parents, siblings, an education, friends, careers, a home, kids. But now that I've entered the middle part, or maybe the second half of my life, I've noticed that life is starting to take away things. And that's okay, because it's part of the deal. You know, the word nostalgia, when taken literally, means pain from an old wound. I want all of you to know that I will remember this time with you fondly, but with a twinge of pain. Not because it was bad, but because it was so good, but in a time past. Thank you.
No demonstrations on the floor. You're out of order. Thank you all. The question before the Senate is on adoption of Senate Resolution 220. Am I allowed to do this myself? I guess. Please rise. Resolution is adopted.